Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of the Two Mics. It's your host. I'm hosting today. It's Mr. Kevin Kabingu, and I'm joined with Titus Magwa. And today's episode, it's the second episode of the year. We are shooting it at night. It's
such a hot topic. We had to record it at night.
Yeah,
we couldn't sleep.
Yeah. So the episode we're recording it on Saturday, 6th February.
Yeah.
And today in Kenya, guys who are on Twitter know it was Masculinity Saturday, run by the one and only controversial social. Is a socialite or feminine? Maybe the guys will come for me.
Oh no. I don't agree with you on that one. He's not feminine at all.
So it's run by, it's something that Ameriks, Mr. Eric Amunga usually does on, is it Saturday? Every Saturday. Yeah, so there are some hot takes. There are us thinking about maybe some messages usually shares with people, and us trying to figure out why there's this movement of like young men gravitating to this rising like father figures. We might go into guys like Jordan Peterson a bit, not too much, but mostly this whole episode is just what was going on Masculinity Saturday, how young men on Twitter approaching it, taking it. Is the message good? I guess you'll have to stick around to listen, and maybe in the end you can contact us and tell us what you think. Welcome to the episode. Hi everyone, welcome to the Two Mics. This is a special episode. We are shooting at 11 p.m. at night. It's Masculinity Saturday. Yeah. Oh, Charles is not here for the years. Today I'm joined by one of our special guests, recurring guests, Mr. Titus Magwa.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen.
So today, I think because of the topic, Masculinity Saturday, it's been trending all day. We're recording this on Saturday. And we had a few questions or things or views about the topic. And on this, mostly we wanted to talk about a guy who's been very popular in Kenya called Mr. Amerix, aka Eric Amunga.
Yep. Yeah. So this weekend, Twitter has been lit with Masculinity Saturday, not just today. I think this has been the norm for the past several months, but I think today it was quite fired up. So we thought we just have to do this. So Amerix, I'll just go through his bio, how he describes himself. Don't want to risk misrepresenting him. So he says he's a certified medical specialist in reproductive health. He's here to help you lose weight and stay fit. He's keen on men's health, but also helps women. His areas of consultancy are obesity, diabetes, and sexual health. He also helps men beat addiction towards pornography, masturbation, smoking, and alcohol. And he also says that he works with a team of honest professional consultants.
Okay, for me, I don't know much about Amerix, but yeah, I've seen the whole Masculinity Saturday thing trending all day. So what's Masculinity Saturday?
Masculinity Saturday is this hashtag that Amerix started, where he uses that platform to educate men on some of the things that he's mentioned. So men's health, relationships, reproductive health. Yeah, so it's something that has picked up quite a lot. Right now, as we speak, he has around 192,000 followers on Twitter. It's quite a very huge following. And then he also has a Telegram channel, a hardcore team of the dedicated men, around 25,000 followers, mostly men, I suspect.
So it's just advice for men?
Yes, it's just advice for men. Because there are some areas where I feel I agree with him 100%. For instance, when it comes to health and how he encourages men to take care of their bodies, I'm with him 100% because he's very much for men being physically fit. So I happen to be part of the core team
of his Telegram group.
Yeah, of his Telegram channel. But I joined just out of curiosity, because I could see his activity on Twitter. So when I learned that there's a channel on Telegram that has more interest, I was just curious, and I just want to find out what goes on over there.
So you believe, man, if she tells you that a certain man is pursuing her, tell her you wish her and the man all the best. It is a shit test. She's testing your resilience against her hypergamy. Man up.
That's Amerix for you. That's the tone he takes on almost all everything he says, actually.
So, okay, I think maybe away from this, I know many people who are listening probably have an idea. I had a general idea of who Amerix was. I just wasn't following him that much. So maybe taking this conversation to something larger in terms of why do you think it's a movement I've seen that's been starting and has been really picking up, the movement of like men empowerment somehow, and men looking for, maybe lack of a better word, a father figure or someone who is going to advise them.
Okay, I think before I come to that, I don't think we've really addressed my opinion on Ameriks.
Okay.
Yeah. So because I was just on the first item on health, where I say that I fully agree with him. I'm very much pro fitness, and that especially men should be physically fit. So if it means joining a gym, lifting weights, running, doing whatever you have to do to be fit, then he's also very much for reading books. He normally shares his books for the month. So like for instance, in February, I just shared this week. I hope he won't remove me from his channel. I hope they're not top secrets. But so like some of the books he's following for this month, I think one of them is A Rational Male, Religion, and then another one on obesity. So, and he does that a lot, just to encourage men to read. So after he shares, he asks men to share what they're reading, and that sort of drives people to be people that read, and that's generally a good thing.
It's just misunderstood, or you just have to take him like.
I think Amerix has it right on some things, but there are some areas where I feel he's a bit extreme, and this is especially when it comes to relationships, because I feel like his view of
women,
let me not say women, but his view of relationships is that men should be the dominant figures, men should be the alphas. Like it's not a 50-50 thing. It's the man is in charge of the relationship, and I don't think that's quite helpful, because women have so much to bring to the table, and if you want to really go far, you need to get to the level where you're able to successfully negotiate with your partner on how you're going to deal with things, and basically you're going to chart your own path together. But I feel like Amerix is just like I feel like his view of masculinity when it comes to relationships and sexuality is quite toxic. Let me say that. Let me say it quite bluntly. And it's toxic because I feel like it, to some extent, demeans women. And I do feel like he's sort of trying to just maybe overreact to maybe the empowerment that has happened with women of which there's been some extreme cases. But I generally do feel that his stand on relationships is a bit on the extreme. And I'm sure if you were to hear me say this, you will call me a sissy and a wimp and and a beta male, but it's okay. That's my stand.
Yeah, so it's like from what I see, he takes the like a small minority of maybe the loud cases or the extreme cases is what you usually hear, but that doesn't mean that the way certain women act is how all women act.
Yes.
So he classifies like all women under that banner of that small group. Yeah, so it's the women who have multiple partners. So
the women who don't respect their husbands, the women who yell and are like just generally disrespectful to their husbands, and that's not right, coming from either genders.
Yeah. So it's maybe for a person who's listening is maybe it's us just saying relationship is thriving to have like a partnership, not a dictatorship.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So maybe if you go into his comments or tweets with that kind of lens, you'll know how to filter out stuff that's not so good for you in terms of relationship.
Yeah,
I'm saying
that's true.
The part of relationship.
Yeah, but then you see the danger with someone like Ameriks, and I think this is the issue with some of these leaders who sort of get to start movements, because what's going to happen with most of them, they're going to get it right on most of the things, but then they're going to get it so wrong on some things, and that's where all the problem starts. And I feel like that's the same thing with Ameriks. I really do admire what that guy is doing, and then because I can see the numbers of men that are looking up to him, but then I can see that danger. I can see that danger where,
because also he's pulling in the extreme men as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and those guys are the ones who might use it to justify how they
how they treat women.
Yeah, they treat women. Yeah. So maybe, and also it kind of muddies the whole movement. Like for instance, so you say you follow him for the advice, health, and all that. There's good advice.
Yeah.
But is it easy for you to?
But I think let me clarify.
Yeah.
I follow him out of curiosity.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. Like I'm just curious to see what's going on here. But I do not feel like he's giving me anything I can't get anywhere else.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe for like those guys who there are guys who actually follow him for the good advice.
Very many.
Yeah. So the other guys actually make it hard for you, like for instance, to say it's like discredit some good things he says. If you tell me this is advice I got, I read it somewhere, and it's very good advice, then you tell me it's from Amerix, and I say, I don't want to listen to that because it's Amerix. Yeah. So maybe in a way it also hurts his message. Like even you don't want to say you follow him. You're just curious. Why are you curious?
I think the reason I'm saying, I think the reason I'm making it clear that I don't follow him as a figure I look up to is because I want to dissociate myself from
the extremes.
Some of those extremes that he takes. I will not want to be associated with that.
Yeah. So exactly. Some point.
Exactly your point.
Yeah. So maybe going back to the question, if we have exhausted that, is the question before. Why is this sudden movement of a lot of young men wanting to have father figures and leaders, despite us having institutions that have been having this role in society, IG churches, mosques? There are these institutions that have always had that role, even the family in itself. The dad has the role to be the father figure.
I think the answer is right there in your question, because you say that traditionally we've had these institutions that have sort of played this part of mentorship to young men. And honestly, if you look at these institutions, they've all been breaking down piece by piece. And I think that is what is translating to what we are seeing here. And one interesting fact I think we were talking about earlier before the podcast was, this is not just a Kenyan thing with Amerix. The same thing with Jordan Peterson. Like 90% of the people that watch his YouTube videos are men. And this was even before he took any political stance. Because, it said that men are more into politics than women are. But even before he made any political stance, his viewership was 85% men. So there's definitely something that men are getting from these figures who are coming to sort of help them better their lives. in my opinion, that definitely has something to do with the breakdown in the institutions that we've traditionally had. So let me borrow something from Peterson, although he's not who we are discussing today. Peterson most times refers to Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher, and his book, God is Dead. And in that book, Nietzsche was just lamenting about the breakdown in society that would inevitably result as a result of, quote unquote, the death of God, like the removal of God from the moral structure of society, the removal of the place of religion, like everything will just fall apart. And I think that's part of what we are seeing. Like the foundations that have held traditional societies that were able to thrive, how they thrived, like we are doing away with them. Even the thought processes we are embracing, very fluid and very relative worldviews, like with postmodernism, and that makes everything just so messed up. So of course, definitely that leads to the breakdown that we are seeing in society, and that creates a gap and a vacuum, and these men. And it's not just these men, interestingly, because this week I just saw that the Chinese government is introducing, I think, manly sports or games for their young men because they feel that they are too feminine. There's nothing wrong about being feminine, but
the instances it's
okay, I don't know how to, for female listeners,
we're talking as men.
Yeah, we're talking as men. Yeah, I hope I don't rub anyone the wrong way.
Even the whole girl child, somewhere along the line we kind of forgot about the boy child. Because I think the whole thing, even the rise of Ameriks, I remember a while back, everything on Twitter was boy child this, boy child this.
Yeah.
Boy child bedsitter, boy child, these are the challenges. And then from that is where we got Ameriks. So yeah, the institution, it's like society said, we were not doing enough for the girls. And then we started doing stuff for the girls. But as you were doing stuff for the girls, it's like the boy was...
We focus so much on the girl child, such that we sort of wanted to make the entire existence of reality like centered around women.
The future
such
is
that
female.
we forgot that we all need each other, and that for society to function, everyone needs to bring their strengths into society.
Yeah.
And just to pick on what has been trending today and yesterday. So just reading from some of the content that Amerix himself posted, it was about religion and men. So, and he was saying that some of the content of the original Bible, not referring to the Apocrypha books, is the Apocrypha books or the Apocrypha Bible?
Books, it's books.
Okay, the Apocrypha books, that some of that content was removed so that it will suit feminine correctness. So he says that there's been a concerted distortion of religion to the ends of a feminine imperative, and that the church is now extremely hostile towards any expression of traditional manhood that does not benefit women. And the church today actively wants you to be effeminate men who should hate themselves for being strong male figures.
That's a hot take.
And this is the thing with Amerix.
Yeah.
He's very articulate. He's very straightforward. He's very stern whenever he's taking like a stand on something. And so now the responses from the men started coming in. Yeah, and most of them were agreeing and saying, this is the reason I haven't gone to church since 2017. Others saying, now you're talking. Like you can see that these guys are here to agree with him. Although there were quite a few who sort of tried to take a different position and explain that that's religion, that Christ represent something different.
But is there some truth to it? Like you said, a lot of men are going to the Jordan Petersons and the Amerixes. We are seeing a big number of men not going the church route. Why?
Okay,
why is that?
When we say there's some truth to it, what do we mean?
Okay, it's like the reason he's giving. It's like me trying to explain a phenomena. We are seeing that a lot of men are opting out of going the church route or being in church. For him, that's his explanation.
His explanation.
Yeah, so it's like for us is what do we think is the issue?
First of all, I think definitely we can't exactly break down this issue. There's this perspective of development and how as the world progresses, nations tend to be more secular. And I think it's Tim Keller who was mentioned in his book, The Reason for God, about how... so there was that general prediction that as science improved, as we got to have a better understanding of the world, that we would become more materialistic, but materialistic in the sense of naturalists, such that we don't believe in a supernatural being, like as general societies, specifically because of the progress in science. But he also highlights that in that book, as that has been happening, yes, it's true that the numbers that like attending more towards irreligion and agnosticism, they're increasing and growing. But at the same time, interestingly, the numbers of those who are becoming more spiritual and in a very dedicated way is also significantly growing. So, and what's that resulting in is in a rift, a very sharp rift, such that you don't have like a gray area at all. And to think about it, I think there might be something to that, because even here locally, a few years back, you will find that people used to take maybe private stances on these things, but they will still, be part of the local churches. They'll still be part of a community that, in a sense, represented the old order of that institutions, even if it was not exactly like a church. But then today you find that people are more expressive and people are more willing to take a stance against religion and against all these old institutions. But at the same time, there's still men in the church. There's still men who can still see the value in religion, and who are willing to go down that route. So I think it's a complicated issue. But as time goes by, we are definitely going to see more of this. But generally speaking, from where I stand, I think as far as men are concerned, I think more of them are leaving the church.
And could it be a case of a lot of the issues, like let's say men are struggling with?
But men struggle with many things.
Yeah, they struggle. Yeah, there's a lot of things, but it's like the major ones. They're let's say, for instance, stuff like masturbation. Like their stuff, maybe even if it's addictions. Let's say if it's addictions, they feel like when they go to church, the issue is not sufficiently handled. It's like you're told to pray about it, but you feel like, for me, I need like a more, is it a proactive solution?
Yeah, I think what you're getting at is also the quality of churches. Because especially in Africa, we are not short of churches. We have more than enough churches. But then what is being taught in those churches is very substandard. And I think most men can see that gap very clearly. Because when you go to most of these churches and everything you hear every Sunday is about how God is going to bless you and about how you need to plant a seed. Any logical man wouldn't go to that church 4 Sundays in a row. They will not.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. So, but then I feel, and this is where I feel like maybe perhaps the church needs to also address some of these issues from their end, because from my studies of Christianity, I'm not claiming scholarship in Christianity or anything, but from the little that I know about Christianity, it's a very deep philosophy of life that, if well taught, it can be able to ground men and women to be very good pillars for society. And that kind of teaching is clearly lacking in the church today. So definitely that's a factor.
Yeah, I think it's like, personally I feel it has gotten to a point where the church has become like it's in the state where, like when Jesus was coming to preach, where it's become so doctrinal that it doesn't like really feel like it fits into normal life. I think why guys like Akina Peterson...
What you mean to say is that it's somewhat so abstract, so removed. It's not practical. Yeah.
And it shouldn't be like that, because when you look at the Bible, if you look at it, it's actually just a story of flawed characters and how like God was saving these people. There's that flaws are always shown. It feels that if you read the Bible, it feels like actual people. Yeah. But the way it's preached to us, it never feels like actual people.
Like the expectations that are set for Christians today, they don't seem to be similar to what we see in the Bible. Like, think of a man like David. The man had serious, real flaws. But today, if you're seen to be flawed in a certain way, you're labeled.
It feels weird.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not accepted.
So I think that's why guys like Peterson and the Ameriks, because they're out. It's like they're outside. They feel like these are people who are talking to me. It's not. It doesn't feel like a bigger doctrinal thing that they are trying to synthesize. It's like here is how this guy has rationalized whatever he goes through. I can see it's a person, and his rationalization kind of makes sense to me. So that's why I tend to gravitate to. Oh, that's maybe why they are gravitating to these people. It's like this book is saying. So I'm detached from a book. It's not them trying to synthesize.
It's what the Bible says.
It's what so it's like people's experiences or your own experiences usually have, it's like they're, when someone gives you a personal experience or something you see from someone else, it's usually a more powerful message to you. Yeah. So maybe that's another reason why it's happening, but it's all speculation at this point.
I think there's this American Christian scholar. He has a book, How Should We Then Live? So in the introduction, some of the first lines is he says that every culture has a thought system to it that drives it. And if you examine like the thought system, like the thought climate prevalent today, it's not something that appreciates logical reasoning. It's not something that appreciates some of those traditional values. Like, okay, I feel like we're coming back to some things I mentioned, but it's almost sort of we are destroying everything. We are destroying the fabric of everything that has shaped society as it is today. Especially with this postmodernism. I feel like that would be the end of society as we know it. But unless we counter that, because you see, the issue with this thought climate is it captures the education system. It reshapes the next generation. So you have an entirely different people with very different values. People who don't think of family in the traditional sense. People who don't appreciate some of those old priceless truths.
It's like what you're saying. Maybe we're referring to Peterson a lot, but it's how he said there's a reason why, for instance, if it's the Bible stories or stories societies or communities have always had to govern whichever ideology they have, there's a reason a lot of them worked and they were handed down. No matter what you believe in them, if you believe they're fictional or not, there's something they had in them that helped this society to get or to thrive in the way they did to this point. So it's that we should not just say, oh, okay, these people are not literate, they didn't know how the world worked, and just throw away everything that they were teaching all through the centuries. There's always a powerful message in ideas that have like spanned through the test of time, like even 6,000 years till now. There's a reason it has been able to trickle down up to today. And I don't know, so maybe that's how I view, even if it's something like the Bible, that's how I view it. There's a reason why this story has, or this book, all the teaching it has trickled down to this point we have. So whichever teaching or message it has to be good for me to live my life.
Yeah, and then again, like something the postmodernists, I think, don't pause to think about is, if you look at even the Bible itself, it's a very deep book, like a book written over a period of 1,500 years, but there are interconnections all through. It's not your everyday book, and a book that has stood the test of time. It's a book that has lasted longer than stones, than empires. There's definitely something to this. And then you have the postmodernists come and just take it and throw it out. Like, just take a minute and think about it. Noah could not have made a ship, so everything else, I discredit everything else in the whole book. Yeah, like you, and I think this some of that. I think some of the things we used to see them mostly in campus. I think these days, I don't know, maybe I don't interact with atheists that much now. But you'll find that guys will go to Genesis, try to pick out like a few inconsistencies, a few seeming inconsistencies. So God made light on the first day. The sun came on the third day. Where did the light come from? This is nonsense. And someone throws out that book. Like, come on, take a minute, think about it. There are people that have spent their entire lives thinking about these things and they've not exhausted them. And you want to throw it out after, I don't know, a week or a month or a few hours of thinking about it.
Maybe for me, I might fall in a bit of that camp because I feel I mostly lean towards like being agnostic somehow. I have issues.
I'm praying for you.
Yeah, I have issues, but I don't throw the whole thing away because I get that idea of.
But then, how I see agnosticism, because I think these things, I've wrestled with them a lot in my mind. Because there's that part of us that wants to understand.
Yeah.
But I think you'll have to settle with the fact that you will not understand everything.
So that's
like people have thought about these things for thousands of years. Just to come up with some of the ideas that they are there, you definitely can't process all that amount of information and come to a logical or something that you deem accurate. So maybe something to start with is start with something that works. Start with something that has been tried and tested. Trust the wisdom of the crowd. I think it's Peterson says the crowd is not so foolish.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I can't personally. I can't. I don't get how someone can be an atheist, or because it's you having like a firm stance in something you don't know. Yeah. So still, I don't like to picture it in that way. Always I have that voice in the back of my head which tells me there's something about this I don't understand. Maybe that's why I lean towards the agnosticism a bit, but I do follow it. That's why I was saying I'm more of a secular Christian. It does.
That's postmodern. That's postmodern.
For me, it's like I'm searching for it. Yes, I get that point of maybe you might never find it, but that doesn't mean you should stop looking for it. There's so many things, like I'm thinking there's so many. I don't like having that attitude because there's so many things maybe that were done in certain ways for thousands of years, and then at some point when someone like actually tried to question it, they got answers which helped us later. I don't know.
Okay, so maybe a question to you: what does that search entail?
The search is that it's to give me that extra leap or step to actually believe. How is this just a belief system, or there's something greater to it, like a supernatural or that cosmic thing? As a belief system, I think the Bible is a very good book.
As a belief system.
Yeah, as a belief system. It's a very good book. But that part of it being, is it a supernatural something? That's where it gets a bit difficult for me, personally. I know we have deviated.
Yeah, we've deviated. So Ameriks today, so some of his, maybe I can just read one of his tweets. Mm-hmm. So today's topic again was men and religion. So there's this part where he's addressing men and says, "Men, be spiritual. A spiritual man appreciates that there's a supreme metaphysical power that connects him to his purpose and mission. He knows what is right from wrong. A spiritual man has a spiritual communion that binds his soul, mind, and body." But that he says that after trying to destroy religion and everything. But I don't know.
I get the religion part because, in a way, religion.
But you see, I think sometimes I feel like I also feel like he's doing more harm than good, because I mean, when you tell people to be spiritual,
what does that mean?
What on earth does that mean?
Yeah.
Where should they start? So are you telling them to join a church? Are you telling them to study the Bible for themselves? Are you telling them to consider Eastern religions? What are you saying?
He says everything, because I think he says Christianity, Muslim, Stoicism. I don't know if it's in one of his tweets or I read it in the Telegram group or something. But yeah, he does say it's like the spiritual, where you can find spirituality, take it from there. That's how I get his. But
then again, it's very. That has like that characteristic mark of postmodernism, because he's simply saying all these things. There's nothing objectively useful to it if whatever usefulness you can get anywhere applied for you. When he's telling men to be spiritual, he's in a sense acknowledging that the old order of spirituality and religion has some value to it.
Does, yeah.
But he's also in the same breath trying to discredit that same old order.
Yeah, is he trying to discredit the old order or what the old order has become in terms of the way we see religion has morphed into something
I think he's
else?
trying to discredit the old order because if you are for the old order, he will be advocating for the old order in its purest form. But he's not doing that.
He doesn't say about
he's trying
Jesus
to, No, he doesn't say about... But he does say some nice things about Jesus, as would anybody.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean anything. So I expect to mention again, I feel like we should just do a podcast on Peterson, because I think Peterson has shaped a lot of our thinking from his books and his lectures. So I wanted to say it's about how Peterson refers to... Peterson is interestingly not a Christian, but he does say he believes in God. And his definition of God is something... It's a very long description of God. It's something very scholarly. But okay, I wanted to say about how Peterson keeps on referring to those old traditions and their psychological value and their value towards society as it is. Something interesting, an interesting thought. A friend of mine recently sent me something. Do you know that there are people that say Calvinism set the groundwork for capitalism.
In what way?
In the sense that since they believed that man is flawed and man can do totally nothing about it, so there's this Reformation view towards work. Mostly, I think it was also with the Puritans, where Christians focus on the material world, like to redeem the present world, because they are. And I do believe, yes, there's that, because I can see that in the scriptures where, like God is creating and Christians join on hands with God to redeem this world. Because there's a place in Romans where it says that God will renew all things. Can't specifically remember that verse. Yeah, I haven't been much of a good Christian lately. But so the explanation goes that so after Calvinism now brought on that theological, it's something very strong. Mm-hmm. So for them to sort of appease themselves and sort of try to put in that labor, sort of trying to bring in back what they had removed from the Catholic tradition or that place of works, they instead replaced it with this now focus on the material world and work. And that sort of set the basis for capitalism and work and profit.
Oh, but so it gives someone an incentive to do work.
Yeah. But I'm sure I've not done justice to that explanation. I think we can just put a link to the description.
Yeah, you'll give me the link. I'll share it. But I do see it does. I don't know if it makes sense, but I don't know. For them, I don't think...
The people make sense. I'm going to share it. You're going to read it.
But it's an interesting take. I've never thought about it in that way.
It was so interesting.
So where were we? It did more harm than good. Or generally to the rest of the world, it did more harm.
No, it did more good. Capitalism is good. Like, our world today will not be the way it is if it were not for capitalism. Capitalism has its flaws, definitely. But so far... It's the best system. It's the best economic system democracy. We have. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's better than the other options that we have. Okay,
so after that economics tangent we went on, we can bring it back to now. So in conclusion, I know the episode has gone into many tangents. Yeah. I don't know if it's. I think generally the whole message was. I felt like there is that struggle for men trying to find an identity in this modern world. Yeah. So a lot of them don't know where to get it. And this movement of, yes, we have the Ameriks, but I think we need more, like, I'm not saying more people, but more ways in which we can mentor this young men who are coming up in today's society. It's like Tito was saying, maybe Jordan Peterson is one. Yeah, I think for me he took me through those moments where I was having like a lot of confusion in things, and he like streamlined them.
And he's done that for many people.
Yeah, so. I think for most men they don't, a lot of the advice we get is from our fellow peers. Yeah. And a lot of the time it's not the best kind of advice. Yeah. Ni ile niamini. Ni mimi nakwambia.
Sinakwambia.
Yeah. So, identity should not be from TikTok and Twitter. Yeah. So most of the time I think the toxic parts of like Ameriks and these guys are what trends a lot. And people start it as a joke, and at some point it starts becoming like it gets ingrained in the society or the culture. Like those memes you are seeing you're opening a door for a lady to pass through, you're being called a simp. Unafungulia wasichana you simp.
Unatumia duvet.
Unatumia duvet. Mwanaume ni kujifunika na mikono. Unafaa kujisugua na mawe. So stuff, you see, I think it starts, especially for the more impressionable young people, it usually, for us, because we're a bit ahead in terms of.
Are you saying we're older?
Yeah, we're a bit older. Like, we know a bit. If we don't know a lot, but we know a bit, or we know enough to know that maybe that's not good advice. But maybe someone who's impressionable and coming up, they'll say, so this is how men should act. Because all kids are on Twitter, they're on TikTok and then YouTube. The skits they are seeing is this is how.
But here's the thing, the kind of. And I think it's something I mentioned to you, Ali, even before we started the podcast. The kind of people that are following these men are not just the young men. You have full-grown adult men with children, with big children, and it's so interesting. But here's something that I've just thought about, and it's an interesting take. Maybe as part of my conclusion, that some of these things go deeper than science and anthropology and all this psychological analysis that all the psychologists are doing. And because some of the answers people are going to find, they're going to find them in God, or let me say religion. And maybe that's partly why Amerix is taking this angle of spirituality. Who knows, very soon he may start his own church or something. But my prediction from where I stand is all these movements are sort of going to lead to a new sort of spirituality, a new sort of religious awakening in a sense, because people are going to start looking for answers elsewhere, because you find that all these men they look up to these father figures in a very religious way. Like, I've been following that group, and Amerix says something just as a thought. I think saying hey is feminine. And guys are like, oh my God, I'm not using hey from today henceforth. Guys are just looking for salvation, if I may use that word.
I remember someone telling me saying good night to a guy, that's feminine. You should not be doing that.
Mnyamaziane tu mtaona kesho. Yeah, like some of these things. So my prediction is that definitely this is going to get worse before it gets better. But what's that going to result into is more religious affiliations, especially in the part of men. And I think definitely the church, because I'm a believer in the church. I mean, for all its misdoings, I'm a firm believer in the church. So I just think the church needs to rethink its whole message, to rethink its entire stand. Like, the church needs to find itself, you might say that, and go back to that old order, and sort of try to bring sense into these institutions. Of course, not with the cultural,
not try
sort
to use culture to push the message in a way.
Yes. I think that's my prediction. I'm just going through Amerix's Twitter. Looking for a good tweet to end this podcast. I can't see anything I agree with, interestingly.
So everything for Masculinity Saturday was controversial.
Maybe this one. Men, man up. Because I think men need to man up. Maybe something else as a closing note. I think Amerix does a very good thing with us. There's this thing he has, 4 B's of a good morning. It's something he tells his men almost every morning. That the 4 B's of a good morning is 1, benediction, 2, bed, 3, body, 4, bath. So benediction is like studying. Wake up, study something, feed your mind. 2, bed, make your bed, make it properly. 3, body, exercise, and then take a bath.
Yeah, I could have not said it any better myself. I think those are good words to end with, and it was a bit of a long episode. We went into tangents, but I hope everyone who's listening had a good time. And as always, you can always email us. I'll share the email, the2mics@gmail.com. If you have any questions or topics you want us to talk about, you're always welcome to suggest them. And thank you, Tito, for coming to today's episode.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay. Goodbye.